In 1947, everyone aboard a ship died simultaneously. No wounds, no blood. Every single one of them had their eyes wide open, their mouths gaping. It was as if, in that exact split second, they saw something absolutely terrifying. Even the ship's dog shared this exact same expression. What's even more bizarre, only 12 boaties were found on board. But a ship this size requires a crew of at least 40. Where did the other 28 people go? Nobody knows. And when the rescue team tried to tow the ship back to port, it suddenly exploded on its own. All the evidence sank to the bottom of the ocean. Over 80 years have passed, and not a single country has dared to salvage it. You might think this is the opening scene of a horror movie. No, this is a true story. It happened right next to Thailand, in the Strait of Malacca. And shockingly, the CIA secretly kept a file on it. Today, we're going to unpack this mystery. A maritime enigma buried by three major powers working together. The deadly mystery of the high seas. Let's start with that CIA file. On December 5th, 1959, in Scottsdale, Arizona, a man named C.H. Martin wrote a letter to the assistant of CIA Director Alan Dulles. The letter detailed the incident of the SS Ourang Medan and ended with a chilling question. Do you think there's some unknown force behind this? The CIA never replied, but they assigned the letter a case number, stamped it top secret, and locked it in a classified vault. This document wasn't declassified and released until May 23, 2003, 44 years later. Why would the world's most powerful intelligence agency take a ship that might not even exist and file its documents under the highest level of secrecy? To solve this puzzle, we first need to figure out one thing. Who exactly told the story in the first place? The answer points to Trieste, Italy. To a man named Silvio Shirley. He had a rather unique background. He was both a maritime radio operator and a freelance journalist. In October 1940, Shirley published a series of articles in a local tabloid. The headline read, "A Maritime Tragedy. The Story of the Ourang Medan." This was the first time the ship appeared in print. Pay attention to the year, 1940. But the incident in the story supposedly happened in 1947. How could someone write about an event 7 years before it even took place? What's even more absurd is that a French magazine from the Vichy era, called 7 Days, also published this exact story on September 7th, 1941. That article claimed the event happened on November 13th, 1939. And the location wasn't the Strait of Malacca, but right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so we have the same story. 3 different years. In 2 completely different oceans. Was Shirley actually reporting the facts? Or was he weaving an elaborate, carefully crafted lie? Between February and March 1948, the Dutch East Indies newspaper De L'Hoop serialized 3 articles on the subject. The source. Once again, it was Shirley. But this time, the details had changed. He claimed there was a single survivor, a German sailor, who washed up on the Toanvi Atoll in the Marshall Islands. This survivor supposedly told the whole story to a missionary, who then relayed it back to Shirley. And right after telling the story, the German sailor allegedly died. It was the perfect dead-end trail. The main witness is dead. The missionary is unidentified, and the journalist is on the other side of the world. Fast forward to May 1952. The United States Coast Guard's Merchant Marine Council proceedings officially referenced the Ourang Medan incident. The government publication just gave an unverified urban legend an official stamp of approval. And then came that 1959 CIA letter. A ship that might never have existed somehow made its way into the records of 2 U.S. government agencies. Alright, let's head back out to sea. According to the most widely circulated version of the story, on a night in June 1947, the airwaves over the Strait of Malacca suddenly lit up with a frantic Morse code S. Listening posts in both Singapore and Sumatra intercepted the signal simultaneously. The message read, "All officers, including captain, are dead. Lying in chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead." After a burst of chaotic, indecipherable code, 2 final words came through loud and clear. "I die." Then, dead silence. The closest vessel, the American merchant ship Silver Star, quickly changed course and steamed full speed toward the coordinates. Early the next morning, they spotted her. The Ourang Medan was drifting on the water, completely motionless. They hailed the ship for hours but got no response. The second the boarding party stepped onto the deck, they knew something was terribly wrong. It was June on the equator. The air should have been a suffocating 98 degrees Fahrenheit, but a bone-chilling cold hung over the ship. And then, they saw the boaties. The captain was slumped over the bridge. The radio operator was still sitting at his station, his fingers still resting on the Morse telegraph key. The crew was scattered all across the deck. Their postures varied, but their expressions were exactly the same. Eyes bugged out in sheer terror, mouths stretched wide in a silent scream. There was no blood, no visible wounds, and no signs of trauma whatsoever. Even the little shipdog was frozen in place, its teeth bared, as if snarling at some invisible threat. Only 12 boaties were found on the entire ship, but a freighter of this tonnage would need at least 40 men to operate it. So where were the other 28? One of the lifeboats was missing. Did some of them escape? Or had there never been 40 people on board to begin with? The crew of the Silver Star decided to attach it and drag the ghost ship back to port. But the moment the line was secured, thick smoke began pouring out of cargo hold number 4. Within seconds, flames erupted. They hacked the towing way and threw their engines into full reverse. A massive explosion violently launched the Ourang Medan out of the water. The hull snapped in half, taking the 12 boaties, the entire cargo, and every shred of evidence of what had happened, straight down to the bottom of the Malacca Strait. Now here's the real question. What on earth could kill everyone simultaneously, leave absolutely no wounds, and then trigger a self-destructing explosion? One theory points directly to what was hidden in the cargo hold. Some researchers believe that the Ourang Medan was secretly smuggling potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin when sealed in a dry environment. Both of these chemicals are perfectly stable, but if the ship's hull was old and leaky, and seawater seeped into the cargo hold, the cyanide reacting with water would release hydrogen cyanide gas. It's a colorless, nearly odorless that would silently pump through the ventilation system into every corner of the ship, killing anyone who breathed it in within minutes. Those bulging eyes and gaping mouths, they are the exact textbook symptoms of acute hypoxia. As for the nitroglycerin, once exposed to seawater and salt, it becomes incredibly unstable. Even the slightest jolt could set off a massive blast. In fact, the boarding crew from the Silver Star explicitly stated that the thick smoke originated from cargo hold number 4, the exact place where such contraband would be stored. This theory perfectly explains both the mysterious deaths and the explosion. But it opens the door to an even darker question. Who was loading military-grade chemicals onto a rusted-out tramp steamer? And why choose a shipping lane that sees hundreds of vessels passing through every single day? In 1947, the Strait of Malacca was effectively a lawless gray zone. On the west bank were the British colonies of Malaya and Singapore. On the east bank was the Dutch East Indies, deep in a chaotic fight for independence. World War II had just ended 2 years prior, and the old colonial empires were crumbling. Maritime patrols were practically none. Weapons, lethal chemicals, and contraband flowed freely through this waterway. No inspections, no questions asked. And at this exact same time, the Iron Curtain was falling as the Cold War began. Both the US and the Soviets were frantically scrambling to hoard leftover World War II military tech. Rockets, advanced radar systems, and chemical weapon formulas. Mountains of war surplus needed to be transported in total secrecy. They couldn't use official shipping lanes, and they couldn't afford to leave a paper trail. So, the unpolished waters of Southeast Asia became the absolute perfect dark network. Between 1946 and 1949, Dutch colonial authorities were locked in a brutal standoff with the Indonesian independence movement. Meanwhile, the British and Malaya were up to their necks dealing with communist guerrillas. The navies of all 3 nations were completely overwhelmed. The Strait of Malacca was essentially operating under a paralyzed regulatory system. According to post-war archives, in 1947 alone, Dutch East Indies Customs intercepted 17 separate cases of undeclared chemical smuggling. And what actually gets caught is usually just the tip of the iceberg. Some Western researchers suggest that the Ourang Medan was likely just a single link in this massive smuggling chain, an unregistered ghost ship, navigating an unpoliced waterway, carrying cargo that could never see the light of day. Potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin were practically hard currency on the post-war black market. They were used for mining blasts, but also for manufacturing improvised weapons. If this is true, then those 12 dead men weren't tragic victims of a freak accident. They were simply collateral damage in a botched Black Ops transport. This theory is incredibly popular in the West. It perfectly explains why the Ourang Medan was never found. on the Lloyd's Register of Ships because she was never supposed to exist on any official record in the first place. It was a ghost ship on a ghost mission. But there is one fatal flaw in this logic. Investigators dug through the archives of Lloyd's Register. Since 1760, every single legitimate merchant ship on the planet has been documented there. The ship's name, nationality, tonnage, year of construction, and the owner's information, it's all there. But for the Ourang Medan, it doesn't exist. There are 0 records. What about the Silver Star? Then, as the sole witness to the event, it has to be real, right? The search results for that ship were even more bizarre. Researcher Alexander Butziger discovered that the name Silver Star didn't even exist until 1946. Its predecessor was named the Santa Cecilia, built back in 1942. Weighing in at 6,507 tons, after being transferred to the U.S. Maritime Commission in 1946, it was renamed the Silver Star. But by 1947, it was transferred again to Graceline and renamed the Santa Juana. In other words, in 1947, there simply was no ship named the Silver Star. Operating in the Strait of Malacca, the identity of the sole witness just doesn't check out. So, we're left staring at only 2 possibilities. Possibility number 1. The entire thing, from start to finish, was fabricated by Shirley, an Italian radio operator and journalist, who took fragmented maritime rumors and stitched them together into a tall tale. He peddled the story from 1940 to 1948, making the details richer, and the plot more outlandish with every retelling, until eventually, even the US, Coast Guard, and the CIA bought into it as truth. Possibility number 2. A ship really did meet a grim fate, but it wasn't called the Ourang Medan, and it probably didn't happen in 1947. Shirley might have caught the blurry outline of a real disaster, and then just used his wild imagination to fill in all the missing gaps, like a masterful novelist stringing readers along, regardless of which scenario is true. One thing is absolutely certain. Over the past 80 years, no government, number institution, and no country has ever attempted a serious official salvage operation of whatever lies beneath that shipping lane. And the Strait of Malacca remains the most crowded waterway on the planet today. In 2025, over 100,000 vessels pass through here, averaging 281 ships a day. Roughly 25 to 30% of all global maritime trade, carrying oil, natural gas, and cargo containers, has to squeeze through this choke point, which is only 1.7 miles wide at its narrowest. 80% of China's crude oil imports travel this route. Almost all of Japan and South Korea's liquefied natural gas passes straight through here. The microchips in your smartphone, the gas in your car, and the coffee beans on your table most likely took a ride down this very channel. And down there, at the bottom of this vital artery, there just might be a ship resting in the dark. A ship carrying 12 wide-eyed corpses. And a cargo hold number for that no one will ever pry open again.